This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we look back on a very solid week for the field hockey and men's soccer teams. Plus, we recap the football team's season opener and preview the NESCAC qualifier for the men's golf team. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The football team scored on their opening drive Saturday against Trinity, but the Bantams took a 10-7 lead before halftime and outscored the Bobcats 28-0 in the second half to take the game by a final count of 38-7. Senior linebacker Mark Upton led the way on defense with 12 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Meanwhile, sophomore quarterback Sandy Plashkis tallied a 57-yard rush on their opening drive to set up his 3-yard touchdown run. But in the end, Trinity, always one of the best teams in the NESCAC, was able to pull away. We sat down with head coach Mark Harriman on Monday to reflect on Saturday's season opener.
Well, Coach, the opener against a perennial power there in Trinity, obviously a tough game for you guys, but what do you think the guys learned from the experience of playing a team that's always, at the top of the NESCAC, just right off the bat here in week one?
Right. Well, they certainly are as good of a team, if not a better team, than they were a year ago. And I think, probably the biggest takeaway for us was the level of intensity that we have to maintain throughout the game. I thought at times that was really good, and that's usually when we played well on both sides of the ball. And then when that wasn't at the level it needs to be at is when we struggled a little bit. And as I mentioned to the team after the game, in order to go in and win a game against a team like Trinity, we need to be at that level for all 60 minutes.
It's kind of interesting, the opening drive, just like last year against Amherst, a big play. In this case, it was Sandy running for 50-plus yards to set up a touchdown later. What is it about the first few plays that seems to be so effective in a game for you guys, and then what changed, if anything, throughout the course of the game? Because after that, there wasn't a whole lot of room to run, it looked like.
Yeah, well, I think part of it was, Sandy made a real good read on that play. We had some issues as the game went on with not just with reads, but with guys, executing their assignments on offense. And I think what happens, especially with guys that are a little bit less experienced, is as things become more difficult, they press too hard, and as opposed to letting the things that should occur somewhat naturally throughout the course of the play develop. And I think that was probably one of the big things, is that as we got into the situation when we needed to make plays, guys were, maybe pressing a little too hard, the young guys.
The defense started off very strong, forcing Trinity to punt a number of times, but it seemed like over the course of the game, because the offense was going 3 and out, the defense kind of tired. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that that is fair. We've made some changes both on defense and special teams. A lot of our guys that are on defense also double up on a lot of the special teams, and in certain games that can add upwards to 20 snaps a game for a guy. So we took a real hard look at that over the weekend, and we'll continue to get the guys on the field that we feel can play for us, both on defense and on the special teams. But again, we are what we are, and there's some guys that are going to have to be 60-minute men. They're just going to have to go out and play. And but we did. I think there was a cumulative effect that they've got arguably one of the best offensive lines I've seen since I've been here, and a couple of really good running backs. No different than we'll see this upcoming week with Tufts. But so that type of physical game is something that I think our guys need to really prepare themselves for and get used to.
Obviously, with the triple option, it is going to be a run-heavy offense. Sandy did attempt 9 passes. Is that where you want him in terms of number of pass attempts, or are you looking for more throughout the year, or what are your thoughts there?
We'll obviously, we'll open it up as he develops, as our receivers develop, as our offensive line develops. I mean, it's where we have to get better at in our execution. There's no question about that. I think there were times that we could have probably made some things happen in the past game, whether it's by checking to a pass, even though we've called a run, and some of those things that again, a little more experience and things like that which will help.
What will be the points of emphasis in practice to the team leading up to another road game there against Tufts?
Yeah, well, we've got to get better. I mean, in every phase of our game, there were a lot of situations that some of the punt returns really hurt us. It changed, not just putting the defense with their backs to the wall, but always creating long fields for our offense. There was very few times where we had the opportunity to take the ball in even a 50 or 60 yard drive as opposed to a 70 or 80 yard drive, and those 20 yards can make a huge difference. So that's just an example of some of the things that we got to square away this week. And there is an old football adage that your biggest improvement is between the first week and the second week. So we're certainly going to go out and work hard to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point with the punt returns, because Foley's got such a strong leg. Is he just out kicking his coverage, or is it more the coverage not filling their gaps?
Well, it's an all conference return guy back there, and
yeah.
To be honest with you, having a quality punter can be a double-edged sword at this level,
right.
Because when you're getting great hang time and great distance, it can. I think there was one where, yeah, he might have outkicked the coverage a little bit. We're certainly not going to tell him not to kick the ball
right.
as far as he can. We got to do a better job with directional kicking, and that hurt us a couple of times. And again, some guys that need to understand their role in the scheme. And as I said, that's something we'll definitely get squared away this week.
And then Mark Upton was a standout, as usual, on defense, forcing a fumble out of the end zone, had a sack. I mean, what do you see from him out there? More of the same from him, really, right?
Yeah, no, Mark played, again, the bar's set pretty high for him, and that's what we talk to our guys all about all the time. I think, he did play a very good game. I thought Trevor Lyons, again, a guy that we expect big things from, played a very solid game. Joe Frake, I thought, played a great game for a guy who's really playing a new position, and I thought Sam Francis, just from an effort standpoint, did a phenomenal job for us. So, defensively, there were some guys that, again, expectations are a little higher, and they did, do they meet those? Yes, I think. We're always going to want them to have great games, but we did have a couple other guys that I thought stepped up and did a nice job.
And just any other thoughts on the opener? And, I mean, obviously the emphasis has got to get better in all phases, but any other thoughts on what you learned from that first game moving forward?
Yeah, well, again, like I said, it's practice is one thing, but when the music gets cranked up and the intensity level goes from a 5 to a 10, then our guys need to be able to respond to that. And I thought we did it. We talked to our guys about coming out and playing fast and setting that intensity level. And if you look at the first drive on offense and how we were playing on defense, I thought we did a great job with that. It's just, again, being able to maintain that through the course of the game, through the highs and the lows. I mean, there's always momentum swings in any athletic contest, but I think especially in football, there's these big momentum swings, and we have to be mature enough to handle it when it's going well for us, and certainly get that momentum swinging back towards us when it's not going our way.
All right, Coach, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to the Tufts game this weekend. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
The men's soccer team started the week with a match in Brunswick last Tuesday against defending NESCAC champion Bowdoin. And just like last year, the Bobcats and the Polar Bears played to a draw. But this time, Bates found itself down 1-0 with just over 4 minutes to go in regulation. That's when junior Nate Merchant scored his second goal of the season, tying the match at 1. That's the way it stayed through 2 overtime periods, and Bates snapped Bowdoin's 7-match winning streak against the Bobcats in Brunswick. Then on Saturday, the Bobcats shut out Wesleyan 2-0 behind a strong first-half performance that saw seniors Luke McNabb and Matt DeVete score their second goals of the season. Head coach Stuart Flaherty joined the Bobcast immediately after the win to break down the two scores.
Both came late in the first half. We played well for the first half hour, but it's obviously good to break the tie in a game. First one was Drew Parsons, who at centre forward drove to the byline, beat a defender, cut it back behind our first line of attack, and Luke McNabb made a very good run from central midfield to finish it. That's holding centre mid. That's Luke's second goal of the year, actually.
Absolutely, and the second one, DeVete able to get one after set up from Iacovino. Great setup.
Yeah, Yak did really well. He didn't seem a lot of pressure on the ball, so Yak carried it a bit far, picked out a good ball, and Matty DeVete, who that's his second goal of the year after a late equaliser at UNE, and it was another good finish, and it put us in a good position going into the second half there.
And how nice is it to get a 2-0 win against a team who beat you 5-0 last year?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, whatever, right? I'd forgot about that until you mentioned it.
So it wasn't in the back of your mind during the game what happened last year at all?
Absolutely not. I tend to. I have a memory I can train very well, and I forgot that even happened.
Gotcha. And then just overall, your impressions of the way the team played today. I don't know, you get to watch the tape, but from your view from the sidelines in general.
I think I'll go beyond today. I think this team's magnificent. I think the spot they're in mentally, their work ethic as a group, their ability to lift each other. Today is an example of where they do it in a competitive situation in a time frame where you have to do it. But I mean, they're just doing a phenomenal job on and off the field. They're a great bunch of guys.
Coming off they had the draw with Bowdoin and everything, a team that won the NESCAC last year, and then it's nice to have different people find their back in the net, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm struggling here. I mean, we might have had 4 or 5 kids score goals. So if you're scouting us and you're wondering where the goals are coming from, I mean, they're getting spread around pretty well, And the guy who was been our leading scorer for 3 consecutive years, he's going to be getting off the mark soon. So I mean, that's certainly a good position to be in offensively.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Although Bates fell 2-0 to Williams on Sunday, the 1-1-1 week sets the Bobcats up nicely for the home stretch of the NESCAC schedule. Merchant's goal against Bowdoin is where the week started, and he is our male Bobcat of the week.
Talking to our male Bobcat of the week, Nate Merchant, here on the Bobcast. And first of all, Nate, Bowdoin, defending NESCAC champions, a team you drew with a year ago, but this time at Bowdoin. They were up 1-0 for a while, but then late in the game you were able to get the equalizer. Describe the play for us.
So basically it was late in the game. I think it was the 83rd, 84th minute, and at that point we were kind of just launching it at their back line, trying to break through. And I saw the ball coming over the top in the air, and it sort of bounced, and there's a miscommunication, I believe, between their right back and their goalie. Their goalie kind of came out, and then their right back headed the ball, and it sort of started bouncing towards the top of the 18 where I was approaching, coming up that way. And then Peebo sort of fended off one of the defenders, and I came through and just saw the open goal and just knew I had to get a good contact on it, and so luckily... got a good hit on it, and it just flew into the top right corner.
Absolutely, and then I'm always curious. Not all draws are created equal, right? I mean, What's your thoughts on ties?
It's kind of we were happy to get a point. I think at that point we knew we sort of dominated the game. I thought we had a lot of the possession, had a lot of good plays going forward, and so and their goal came off of a rebound. Our goalie Robbie had a great game. But I really thought it was pretty even. If not, we had the upper hand. So to get that tie, it was a big point, a point nonetheless. The win would have been nice, but we'll take a point.
And the scoring's been so spread out for you guys this year. Everyone's scoring goals, it seems like. What's that like?
It's great. It's just spreading the love, getting the ball, getting different guys in the ball. Obviously, in the last game, or against Wesleyan on Saturday, having 2 of our seniors, Luke McNabb and Matt DeVete, score. That was great for them in their senior campaign. So, yeah, it's been great.
And then for you as a junior, you've kind of had a bit of a breakout start to the season. What's been working for you out there?
I've sort of found my position on the right wing and up top this year. I think that we've sort of been able to build in our attacking play. Obviously, having Eric Apoku come in on the left side, he's been a huge help. Great technical player who can get us on the ball. And I think just the connectivity between the backs, the mids, and the front line is something that we've sort of been missing in the past years. And so it really feels like things are starting to click. And I think that's really been how we've been successful this year.
Yeah, and Eric's dribbling is so fancy, and I find myself watching it. You have to remind yourself not just to stand there and watch, right?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he's great with the ball. He's small, he's quick, and he can just cut people up. So he's a great addition to the team.
It seems like your style of play is a very physical style. Would that be a fair assessment?
I'd say that'd be a fair assessment, yeah. I like to get up there, get in people's faces, kind of just give no one time on the ball, just pressing at all times. But yeah, I think that's definitely a way to describe my game.
and then, for the team, what are you working on this week, leading into some very important NESCAC games? Because obviously top 8 make the tournament. Just fell a little bit short last year, but a good shot this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have a great shot at making the tournament this year. This week coming off, we got 3 points in the weekend, coming off a 4-point week in 3 big NESCAC games. Unfortunately, we lost to Williams yesterday. But just staying healthy, recovering this week. We have 5 days to just recover and prepare for this doubleheader at Trinity and Amherst this weekend. So big 2 games coming up. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Amherst defending national champs. They're a pretty big team. What did you learn from facing them last year?
They were definitely a great team last year. I think they've lost a few guys, and I think that we're kind of coming up in the standings. And so I think, we got nothing to lose really. I've always thought I like to embrace that underdog status. They're the national champs, they're this big, great team, but why not us? That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. One more question, let you run to practice. You're from California originally, right. So how did you get up here to Maine? What attracted you to come across the country to Bates?
So I knew I wanted to get away from the West Coast. The East Coast has always been attractive to me, and I visited, did an overnight with one of the players who was in the team when I was a junior in high school. Sure, talked to Stu. Came, really liked the school, went to the CAT camp over the summer. Just overall had a great experience in the applying process and applied early decision and got in, and that was it.
Did they reach out to you first, or did you reach out to them?
I reached out to them. So it's kind of, he couldn't come out to see me play, so he saw my highlight reels and that kind of stuff, and we were just in touch. And he liked me, and he liked the way I played, and so he made me one of his recruits, and I applied, and that was it, and here I am.
All right, yep. As a junior, Nate Merchant having a breakout year in our male Bobcat of the Week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The women's soccer team rallied in dramatic fashion on Saturday to tie Wesleyan 2-2. Down 2-0 in the 84th minute, Bates got on the board thanks to yet another goal from sophomore Olivia Amder, who now has 4 goals on the year, matching her total from last season. Then less than a minute later, junior Hannah Behringer tallied her second goal of the year to even the match. Neither team scored after that as Bates picked up its first point in NESCAC play this season. The Bobcats gave number 1 nationally ranked Williams a run for their money the next day, but ended up falling in that match 2-0. Perhaps the best week among the Bates fall sports belonged to the field hockey team, as they went 2-1 last week, including a 6-0 win over Thomas College on Wednesday and a 3-0 NESCAC victory over Wesleyan on Saturday. Although the Bobcats fell to Williams in overtime by a score of 2-1 on Sunday, the field hockey team is already 1 win away from matching its victory total from last year in NESCAC play. Sophomore Jessie Moriarty scored 3 goals on the week, with 2 of those goals coming against Wesleyan. Moriarty's enthusiastic on the field, so enthusiastic she actually lost her voice on Saturday. She was still nice enough to join the Bobcast and is our female Bobcat of the Week.
For you personally, 5 goals already this year after scoring, 2 last year as a first year. What's been really working for you there on the front line?
I think just playing with 2 of my fellow classmates and just knowing who's behind me better and knowing the system better helps a lot.
The 6-0 win over Thomas, when your team's scoring that many goals, how good is that feeling on the sidelines and everything?
It's definitely a good feeling and definitely good to be spread out amongst a lot of people, and it's a good team feeling, good team win.
And then you had the NESCAC victory as well this weekend, shutting out Wesleyan 3-0. What came together in that one for you?
I think the lines just started coming together and the communication. It was just one of those games where everybody was doing their job and doing what they needed to do on the field, and it just felt like it was working.
And then tell us a little bit about Danny as a head coach, because I know she's been building the program up these past few years and really starting to see the results. What is she like as a coach?
She's an awesome head coach, and she definitely encourages us to be the best that we can be every day at practice and pushes us to be better. And I think she just wants what's best for the program and what's best for the team always, and that attitude shows through and gets us on the same page as her and working in the same ways as her.
And your 2 fellow sophomores who are on the same line as you. Tell us a little bit more about them and your relationship.
Those are 2 of my best friends, so it's awesome to be able to play with them on the same line. And I feel like we have a lot of connections off the field and it shows on the field, and being with each other every day, all the time, definitely shows.
And that's Ada and Taylor, right?
Yeah, that's Ada and Taylor.
And what are their styles like compared to yours, I guess, Ada and Taylor, and how do you mix out there?
I think we mix pretty well because we do play differently, and our styles mold together because the three of us are on the same line, but like off the same line, like we play in an upfield triangle, so we're not all clumped in the same area, and we're going to be doing different skills, but I think we cut off of each other well and listen to each other and can actually talk constructively to each other so that we can play better.
Excellent. Then obviously you got, I believe, some road NESCAC matches coming up, right? Yes. Yeah, Trinity and Amherst going on the road. So, pretty big, right? I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Heading into these weekend trips, and what's the emphasis you think this weekend practice is going to be?
I think the emphasis this week in practice is just going to be coming out and playing hard for two halves because obviously we can hang with teams like Williams and such. We came back, we tied them, we played in overtime with them. But had we had a stronger first half, I think the game would have gone differently. So I think our goal is to have just a strong 70 minutes and play hard and play our game for 70 minutes. And being on the road, it's obviously more difficult than playing at home, but just like recognizing that if we play our game, we're going to win.
And overtime in field hockey is weird, right? Because it goes down to 7-on-7. What's that like?
It's definitely a lot more physically tasking and a lot more tiring, but I think like our strengths show through, and our speed and like endurance definitely shows through in the 7v7s, and we just didn't win this one.
And did you have any overtime matches last year or anything?
Yeah, we had USM.
USM last year?
Yeah.
Okay, so
we had double overtime, and then we lost them in shootouts, so that was our only overtime game, though. So definitely different than other games.
It's probably preferable to try to avoid overtime, though, right, in general?
Yeah, definitely not the best to have.
And then for you, I mean, just in terms of Bates in general, how have you seen, your game develop over these past 2 years, just kind of getting adjusted to the college game, still only a sophomore?
Yeah, I think I just realized like it's more of a team game. Like high school is high school, and you can have stars on a high school team, but you can't have stars on a college team because everyone needs to play together in order to win. And our conference is so strong that you can't play individual at all. And if you want to win, you have to be a team player. And I think it's just helped me like from last year to this year is just seeing so much more of being a team player and being there, and like that's why we're so successful.
All right, well, Jesse, we'll let you rest your voice for the weekend. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Congrats on being our female Bobcat of the week.
Thank you.
While the volleyball team fell to Bowdoin on Wednesday, the Bobcats bounced back in style with a 3-0 victory at Colby on Friday to pick up their first NESCAC victory of the season. Meanwhile, the men's golf team finished 5th at the Husson Invitational, but this week is their biggest week of the year. The Bobcats are preparing for the NESCAC Men's Golf Fall Championship Qualifier set for this Saturday and Sunday and hosted by defending champion Middlebury. Team co-captain Brad Rutkin joined the Bobcast to talk about the deepest men's golf team Bates has had in years.
This is the biggest probably tournament of the year for you guys, right? What's the mentality in this week, and you prepared for it?
Well, the mentality is we want to qualify for the spring. We haven't done that while I've been here. I'm not sure that Bates has ever done it. I actually looked online last week, and I couldn't find anything. But the mentality is that we expect to qualify. We have a really deep team, and everyone wants to play.
It is a really deep team. We talked a little bit about this off-air, talk about it on-air a little bit. Only 5 guys get to actually play at the NESCAC qualifier, and you have 14 guys, and so the coaches will decide this week. And so what's that competition like within the team?
I think it's really good spirited competition. Everybody supports their teammates. For the most part, it makes everybody better. I think there are advantages to having a smaller team where people don't really have to focus during practice about competing. But on the other hand, I think it makes us better.
And how do they go about the decision-making process, or do they not tell you guys?
For the most part, we do a combination of 2 things. We stick with a couple of the senior guys who have played for a long time, who've really, secured their spot in the starting 5, and the younger guys, we kind of go with who's hot at the moment. Mostly because as a young player, you got so much going on when you first get to college that it just makes sense to go with who's playing the best at the time.
Sure, and then obviously you're one of the leaders of this team. What have you noticed from the young guys coming in?
They want to play and they want to win. Most of the young guys, when they don't play in a tournament, they're not happy about it. Not because they don't support their team, but because they want to show what they've got. And for instance, Spencer Pierce this week played in his first tournament of the year, and he shot a 2-day score of 151 with a 74 on Sunday, which is stellar. And I look for him to see what he does at NESCAC this weekend.
Sure, and then, I mean, you mentioned that Bates, hasn't made it maybe ever. I mean, the written history only goes back so far for in NESCAC, but what would it mean to you to break through this year?
It'd mean everything to me. I think, especially with the passing of Coach Flynn, that was a really tough loss for us. I really wanted to finish my career with him, but I think to qualify this year would just solidify all 4 years for me. It would mean a lot.
Yeah, and we want to elaborate a little bit. Obviously, Coach Flynn passing away over the summer. I mean, what did he mean to you?
He meant the world to me. I really mean this, but I love the man. He taught me a lot about competing, a lot about being a man in general, and just being a good teammate. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, and then we do have a new setup now, obviously, with a couple of pros helping you guys out, right?
Yeah, so we have both Kyle and Nick from Martindale. They're the pros over there, and they've done a really good job. I've actually I started off struggling this year, probably the biggest struggle I've had since I've started at Bates, and I worked with Nick this week and got myself right back on track, put up some good numbers this weekend, and it's just been a big help.
Yeah, I mean, for you personally, what have you been working on in your game preparing now for NESCACs?
Well, in my first few years at Bates, I was a really good putter, and I hit the ball kind of poorly, and then this year I came to Bates, and I've been hitting the ball great, but I can't putt. I can't get the ball to go in its home, so that's really what I've been working on, putting and chipping.
Yeah, putting can be the most frustrating part of the game, isn't it?
Frustrating to say the least. And to say that I lose sleep over it would be an understatement. I got a little tape on my floor, and I think my roommates are ready to kill me. I think I've got about 100 golf balls on the floor.
You're working on it for sure. And then what do you know, if anything, about the course you're going to be playing at this weekend?
So it's the Middlebury course. I've actually only been there once, but I haven't played it. I got to visit the course when I visited Middlebury when I was in high school. I've heard great things about the course. I expect that it's going to be beautiful because it's Vermont, and it's probably going to be a challenge.
In terms of, obviously the competition is pretty high because, NESCAC, everyone's out to try to play in the spring. I mean, you've seen these other teams through the years. What makes them so effective?
A bunch of things. One, they're so consistent. The teams that play well usually put 5 numbers under 80. While I've been at Bates, I know we've done that before, but we haven't done that a lot. And that's what makes the team so good. The other thing is just playing in NESCAC competition more than we do. Being up in Maine, we really only see Bowdoin and Colby. Sometimes we see Middlebury, but we don't see Trinity a lot. We don't see the other teams. I know that Middlebury just won their own tournament, and it's being hosted at Middlebury, so you got to figure they have some home field advantage.
Now, then the top 4 teams would qualify for the spring, and so good luck to everyone involved in the men's golf team, and thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
The volleyball team hosts St. Joseph's Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, but that is the only home sporting event this week for Bates. That being said, there are tons of big sporting events on the docket. The cross-country team split up, with some of the Bates runners going to the Colby Invitational and some getting the chance to compete at the Louisville Cross Country Classic in Kentucky. Women's soccer, field hockey, and men's soccer all visit Trinity and Amherst this Saturday and Sunday respectively, while the volleyball team is at Amherst on Saturday. And of course, the football team visits Tufts this Saturday at 1 o'clock. We'll recap it all next time on the Bates Bobcast.